Hello everyone, I am Mallikarjun Rao Mudigonda. I am the Senior Technical Marketing Engineer in the Data Center Business Group. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to get started with the visibility, especially in the context of data center, the data center visibility right from your Nexus dashboard. So over the years, you are aware that Nexus Data Broker is a simple Java binary application which can be installed and executed from a simple Linux machine of your choice. That is called centralized mode of deployment. With ND 4.2, with just a click of a button, you can create a packet visibility fabric and add NDB switches into it and implement the packet visibility right from ND 4.2. In this demonstration, I am using ND 4.2 to show you how easy is it to create a packet visibility fabric and getting started and perform all day 0 and day 2 operations. Let's take a look what Nexus dashboard I'm running. This is ND 4.2, and the first thing what you do when you think about implementing data center packet visibility is to create a NDB fabric. Let's see how to create an NDB fabric. For that, click on Manage, Create Fabrics, click on Action, Create Fabric. To create a Nexus Data Broker fabric, first you click on Create New Line Fabric, and here you'll find Data Broker Fabric. Select the Data Broker Fabric, click Next, and give the fabric name, and select the location, and keep everything default, and auto ISL deploy. So what is essentially auto ISL deploy is when you create packet visibility switches with multiple inter-switch links in between. When there is a link failure in between the NDB switches, the NDB controller have intelligence to make sure the source ports and tool ports are connected with the available links in case of a failure. So when you enable auto ISL deploy without any human intervention, the controller takes care of restitching the path together whenever the paths are failed between the NDB switches. This is recommended configuration to ensure your packet visibility is not disturbed when there is a switch reload or any transceiver failures or any paths are broken between the NDB switches. Click Next, and it's going to summarize everything, and once after you submit, it's going to create the NDB fabric. And for this experiment, I already created my fabric called NDB Fabric. Click on NDB Fabric, and once you create that, first thing what you do is add switches into this fabric. Actions, add switches, and you'll give the IP address, the seed IP address. This is for the NDB switches, the username and the password and the hop count. And once you discover the switches, it's going to list all the NDB switches and select the switches. Make sure that they are exclusively used for Nexus Data Broker, and please select them. And once you select the switches, those switches will start showing up in the inventory page. And the second thing what we do is, as you already know, there is a NDB ACI integration. What that means is, right from the NDB controller, without logging into the ACI, you can configure wide variety of span sessions on the ACI leaves. NDB is a single pane of glass which will allow you to do automation on the ACI controller. In this release, the ACI integration is supported. What we need to do to get started with the integration is, first and foremost thing, please make sure that the ACI fabric is already created in this. Go to Manage, go to Fabrics, and for this demonstration, the ACI fabric is already created. It's a leaf span architecture and ACI fabric, and the connectivity is up, and Nexus dashboard can manage this ACI fabric. And after making sure that the ACI fabric is already installed, the next thing what we do is, in the Nexus Data Broker, when you think about doing this integration, go to Inventory, go to Controllers, click on Actions, onboard the controller. So when you click on onboard the controller, it's going to list off all the ACI fabrics in this. Please be aware, it only lists the ACI fabrics at this point of time. And once you select the fabric, and once you onboard it, it's going to add the ACI fabric into the NDB fabric. And using REST API calls, the NDB fabric will talk to the ACI controller and configures the span sessions on ACI leaves. Through this process, one need not log into the NDB and configure all the span sessions and everything. It is an automatic integration that is available for you to manage all the span related configurations which you find on ACI right from the NDB controller. It's not just about creation. All the day-to-day operations on that span sessions like creation, deletion, and modification, everything can be done right from the NDB fabric. And now we stood up the NDB fabric we added the NDB switches and we made sure that ACI controller is also onboarded and it's ready for the NDB ACI integration use cases. And after that, let's take the switches, and in this demonstration I already added my 3 NDB switches. These are the IP addresses of the switches and these are the models. At this point of time, the Silicon One switches are not supported for the Nexus Data Broker Visibility Fabric. I added some of my cloud scale switches and all the serial numbers are listed here and the mode is normal, and all the software version running and how long the switches have been running is all listed in this switches screen. And once after we make sure the switches and controllers are added, what we do in that case is, we'll first see how the topology was built. The ND controller makes sure that using CDP, it's going to build the topology, and in this topology, you will find all the NDB switches and the links between them and how they are connected. And after that, configuring the ports. How do we do that? Click on connectivity. The first thing what we do is start defining the input ports. Click on actions, add input port, and select the switch and select the port, and the ND is rendering all the ports from this particular switch. Select the port and select the type of the port, and if you want to add the description, add the port description and give the VLAN ID. This is an extra marking that you can do once after receiving the copy traffic, either through span or tap or through ACI leaf. Enable block TX. We make sure that nothing is transmitted back into your spans and taps or leaves. And once you add this, it's going to add the input port. And I already created 3 input ports from various switches, and it gives you the port numbers, the devices, and the status, and what configuration we have, and the description, and it's in use or not in use, and the description of all the ports is shown here in this screen. And the next thing what we do is start defining the ports. Click on actions, add monitoring tool, select M1, name the tool M1, and the source ports and the tool ports need not be on the same switch. Any port can do any functionality. As long as there is a path between these NDB switches, you are okay to configure the tools on any of your available NDB switch. And right after selecting the switch, we are going to select the port where the tools are connected. In some cases, the monitoring tools may be local to your data center, and in some cases, the monitoring tools can be away from your data center. When they are local to the data center, we configure it as a local port, and when it's away from the data center, we configure it as a remote tool. Select the port. Now you have 2 choices. Give the description of the tool. It's a local monitoring tool or remote monitoring tool. In case of remote monitoring, we ask you for all the ER span related information to make sure that all packets are encapsulated into ER span and then routed to your remote tool. In case of local monitoring tool, block RX, we'll make sure that we don't transmit anything into the tool port or receive anything from the remote tool. We block the RX portion and then add the tool. And for this case, I already have a bunch of tools which are connected on multiple NDB switches. They're all local monitoring tools and they're all up right now. Some of the tools I connected here are Extra Hub, Suricata, Wireshark, and you can have many other wide variety of tools as per your choice. The tools can be APM and NPM tools or timestamping tools, for that matter any tools. And so far we added the switches, we configured the input ports, and we configured the tool ports. And if you want to have a port channel towards the sources, in other words the span towards the spans or towards the leaves, or towards the tools for doing load balancing, high availability, or for the increased bandwidth, or to make sure that it's fault tolerant between the NDB switches, we can always create the port channels. For that, click on interfaces, go to interfaces and click on actions and click on interface group. And when you click on create interface, it's going to ask you what is the port channel number and what members you want to have in this port channel. And once after you create these port channels can be used when you are creating your source ports or tool ports. So once we know where the copies traffic is coming in from, the next thing what we do is create the filters. If you go to the filters, there are already pre-created filters in the product for you. And if you want to create any filters, click on action, add filter, and you want to make it bidirectional, select it. And the filters can be layer 2, layer 3 or layer 4. Select the type of filter what you want. When you select layer 2, you can say source MAC, destination MAC, layer 3, host or the entire subnet, or layer 4, a TCP ports, UDP ports, a range of them, and you select the filters here. And once you create the filters, they start showing up in the screen. And once after you create the filters, the next thing what you do is bring them all together into one place, which we call it as connections. So before we explore how to create a connection, be aware there are some of the default connections. These are the connections what the controller will already pre-create it for you to make sure that the topologies are built right. And these are called default denies, and it makes sure that before you configure any port as source port or a tool port, we make sure that any copy traffic coming in from spans or tabs or from the tools are by default denied until unless you create a connection. So let's see how to create a connection right now. Click on user connections, action, add connection. Now give the description for the connection, and here you have input ports. Select the ports what you created in the previous screen, and all the ports will start popping up here. Select them, and it could be one, it could be two, multiple. Select them, and now once you select, all the ports will start popping up here, and select the filter. It could be match all, or it could be any custom filter that you want to do, and select the tools. It could be one tool, multiple tools. So once you create this connection, it gives you a nice visual rendering of where this connection is coming from, what are all the span ports that we are trying to collect, and what tools we are trying to feed, and what filter we are trying to apply. And this is how we create a user connections. And I already created some of the connections here. And let's take a look how a connection looks like. And this particular connection, as you can see, this connection, the input port is Ethernet 1/6, and I have an extra hop security appliance which is connected to Ethernet 1/19. This is a local tool, and I want to send all the IP packets to my extra hop tool. Let's see how the deployment view look like. The deployment view will tell how this is deployed, and the network view will tell if you have multiple paths, what is the best path the controller pick for you to make sure that the sources and the tools are connected. In this case, it's going to my switch 233, and then going to my 235, and then going to the extra hop. This is how we create the connections. And once you create the connections, the status is telling all connections are successfully installed, and what filters you applied, and what are the input ports for those connections, and what tools you are sending it to. One connection can send it to multiple tools, and multiple sources can send to one tool or multiple tool. All the permutations and combinations are possible with these connections. And let's take a look at the links. So links is nothing but, as we already saw the topology, there is something called interswitch links. These are the links which are connected between the NDB switches. Now, having this as a context, let's go to the fabric, and now let's go to the connectivity, and let's go to the links. And these links are going to clearly indicate how the interswitch link ports are connected, and what is the status of it, and what is the operational status of it is all displayed in the links. Interface group is another interesting concept where you have a bunch of input ports which are getting a span traffic or a tab traffic from ACI leaf or maybe Cisco production environment. It could be Cisco or non-Cisco, any sources, and which you can logically group them into one bundle. Remember, this is not a port channel, a logical grouping of all the input ports. That's what we call as input port group. So the whole idea about is, once you create an input port group, click on add input port group, and you can select the switch and select all the ports, some ports from some switches, and you can create a group out of it, and that is called an input port group. And once you create this input port group, and when you are creating your connections, that is, you are going to avoid a lot of clicks. Instead of going to 5 different switches and 5 different ports, you can just create that logical port group, which is an input group. And such a port groups can not just with the input ports, you can also create it for monitoring tools. Click on actions, add monitoring. And once you create these groups, it's very convenient when you're creating a connections. For that, when you click on connections, click on add connection and click on input group and select the input group. I did not connect any input groups in this demo, but once you select it, you'll start seeing the input groups, and you'll also start selecting the tool port groups, and you just don't need to select multiple switches multiple times. You just select those groups with just few clicks, your connection is already up and running. That's the whole advantage of the groups. And now let's dip into the NDB ACI integration use case. As we discussed on the start of the demo, the ACI is already added and NDB Fabric is aware and the integration already started. Now let's take a look how we configure the span session on the ACI. Just before we go there, the span session is nothing but a combination of a span source and a span destination, which you create on the leaf. That is called the span session. Now let's take a look how we create a span session on ACI. So what that means is, how do we automate the span destination and the span source and pull them into one place called a span session. Let's see how do we do that. The first thing what we do is creating the span destination. Creating the span destination is logically aligned into the workflow of input port creation. Go to input port, click on actions, add input port, select the device, and 234 is, let's say, which is connected to my leaf. In this case, 235 is the one which is connected to my leaf, and select the port and select the port whatever is connected. It could be connected to your leaf 101, 102, 105, wherever it is connected to this particular port. Select the port, and once you select the port and create span and do an extra marking. Once after you get the copy traffic, you can do an extra marking. Probably I want to mark it as like 115, and click on the device type controller. As you can see, the integration already started. Without logging into the ACI, I already know that my ACI is connected here, and select my ACI. Whatever ACI onboarded will start showing up here. Select the ACI, and once you select the ACI, it asks you what is the name of the span destination that you want to create. Test span destination, and select the part. And if you have multiple parts, it shows you multiple parts. In this case, I have only one part architecture, and select the nodes. I have a 2-leaf and 2-span architecture, and this is my leaf. And once you connect this, it's going to ask what port is connected to the NDB switch. Let's say Ethernet 1/6. What we did in this screen is we are telling, hey, the NDB switch port number Ethernet 1/5 is connected to leaf 101 on Ethernet 1/6. And once we add this, the NDB controller is using REST API calls and talking to your ACI, and it goes and create this particular span destination on leaf 101. Remember, we just created span destination, but we still need to create the span sources. How do we do that? And go to span sessions, click on actions, add span session. We can say my span session 1. Select the controller, ACI Fabric, select, and now you have two choices. You can do span sources, either your front panel ports or your EPGs or the AAPs. So once you select the front panel ports, you are going to select the ports that are connected to your ESXi host or to any service. And once you select this leaf ports, select the leaf. It's going to ask for the part, and and select the leaf and what switches are connected. So in this case, my Ethernet 1/1 and 1/2 are connected to ESXi host. A lot of applications are running on them. I want to monitor everything which is going in and out, and I say both, and the span destination what I created in the previous screen will start popping up here, and I select the destination and I apply the connection. The connection which I already created will start popping up here, and select it. These are all the connections, and select the connection. So once you do that, the span destination and now selected span sources will form a session, and NDB will talk to the ACI and create the span session for you. And I created some span sessions. Click on this, and I created a span session with part 1 on leaf 101, and these are the span destinations, and these are the sources I want to do. This is my VPC, which is actually going into one of my ESXi server. And once I create this is going to create a local span on my leaf 101. And when you go to the span destination, create the span destination, click on it, and this span destination is again on 101, and this span destination is feeding traffic into Ethernet 1/15. In case of local spans of ACI, the span sources and span destination will be on the same leaf. If you want to select the span sources of the EPGs can be on any leaf, and the destination have to be an IP address. In that case, ACI is going to start a ER span source tunnel. So far, we onboarded the NDB switches, we created input ports, we created the tool ports, we told what filtering tools we want, we created the filters, and in the connections, we made sure everything was brought together and the connections are created. This is how a vanilla flow will look like. And this is something called a user-defined fields. If some of the existing filters what is readily not available for you, if you want to go inside to the packet, into the memory location, you can always create user-defined filters, and you can say what offset you want to go into, what length you want to go into, and what device you want to add. And once after you add UDFs to the switches will qualify that UDF on that switch, and the switch have to get rebooted. And once the reboot happens, this UDF is available for you when you're creating your connections. When you're creating your connections, add connection, select the filter, and that filter what you created using UDF will start popping up here like a custom filter, and you can select that filter and apply the filter to that connection, and in that case the filter is a user-defined filter. And in some cases you want to generate the net flow, or you want to turn on some of the global configurations on the switch. How do we do that? Like for that, click on Go Connectivity, go to the global connections, select one of the NDB switch where you want to enable the global configurations, click on Enter Global Configurations, and all the global configurations that you can enable on this box, say be PTP configurations or NetFlow or any other things that you want to enable, will be shown here. And remember, we created the port channels, and if you want to do something like what type of load balancing you want to do, you can select it from here. You have symmetrical load balancing and asymmetrical load balancing, and there is a wide variety of hashing algorithms that you can select. It could be based on source port, source destination, or just different types, whatever you want you can select in the hashes. And if you want to configure the S flow, you want to enable PTP on that particular switch, or you want to turn on Jumbo MTU on all the ports of this particular switch, or you want to enable the net flow. So this is the scope of the switch, and whatever global configurations are enabled, all the global configurations are going to be enabled on the NDB switches. So we have a vanilla use case already demonstrated, and this is the where how you see the topology, how everything have come together, how the ACI is connected, how the tools are connected, how the NDB switches are built together, and everything is shown here. And the very interesting thing is we have to know how to do backup and restore for the operational point of view. For that, click on Administration and go to Backup and Restore. I created some of the backups for you here. This is how the backup files will look like. And go to the backup, click on Actions, create a backup, and give the name and do a local download. And the local download is going to be, the file is going to be created and stored in the Nexus Dashboard. And if you want to do a remote storage, you can always store in your laptop as well. And based on your selection, create the backups, and the backup files are encrypted. Give the encryption key, and once you create the backups are available for you here. And click on Actions, and once after you create the backup in the ND, you can always download the backup to your desktop or laptop. And there is also called a backup schedules. You can always create a backup schedule to make sure that for every 1 day, 10 days, 45 days, whatever is your backup strategy, you can always create a scheduler, and the NDB controller is going to automate that backups for you. And the second thing that we want to discuss in this context is how do we do troubleshooting? What kind of troubleshooting mechanism we have here? So let's take a look at the fabric level troubleshooting. Go to the NDB Fabric, go to the history, and this is going to tell you wide variety of logs: the audit log, the deployment log, the policy change history, and all the recent logs. This is at the scope of the NDB Fabric. It's pretty much like the whole logging, what you did, what actions you performed, and everything that you did for this fabric is all listed here. This is NDB level fabric. And if you want to do kind of a port level stats, go to the inventory, select the switch, and once you select the switch, this is a switch level logging, wide variety of history, when it is rebooted, what actions are performed on the switch, and everything is listed here. Audit logs, deployment history, policy change history. Everything is captured for the scope of the NDB switch here. So, and you want to kind of take the tech support of the entire ND for the troubleshooting purpose, administration, and then click on tech support. And once you select the tech support, and now it's going to collect tech support, and this tech support is collected for the whole ND, and the tech support will have all detailed logs of the NDB controller as well. With this, we saw how NDB switches as a fabric is going to help you to gain more packet level visibility for the ACI fabrics. And now let's take a look how those fabrics are created. This is the ACI controller what I use to automate. Go to Home, Manage Fabrics, and this is the ACI fabric which is onboarded on the ND and which is integrated into NDB Fabric. Click on ACI, Fabric, Access Policy, Troubleshooting, Span Destination. This ACI is used for multiple NDB controllers, so that's the whole reason you'll see a lot of span destination. But the span destination what we created is this. It's created by NDB, and the span destination is sitting on node 101, which is leaf 101 on Ethernet 1/15. I have set the MTU, and this is the span destination, and the span sources for that. Click on span sources, and this is the span source that we created. How do I know that? Click on Nexus Dashboard, go to the fabric, and once you go to the fabric, you'll go to the connectivity. You can see the span destination. This is the name what we used, SD1 on leaf Ethernet 1/15. And when you go to the span sessions, you'll see SS leaf 101, SS leaf 101. This is the span session what we created. The sources in this are 15 group and all the ports associated with it. In this case, it's a ESXi VPC, and this is the destination, which is Ethernet 1/15. And if you go to the operational status, this particular session is up and it's already enabled. Based on this status, the span sessions are created and the status is displayed on the NDB controller. Hope you enjoyed this demonstration of Nexus Data Broker in Unified ND. If you have any questions, please write an email to me, mudravo@cisco.com, and I'm happy to talk to you and help you to get started with Nexus Data Broker. Thank you.